where first there were different rules. One for the common man who would have to suffer the night curfew or a weekend curfew. Fine, one understands, it's COVID. But that rule will not be applicable to politicians. The point is now politicians themselves are suffering from COVID. These rallies have become super spreader events. And all of this is happening 9 months after West Bengal, during the elections, when all these things were happening. Why is it that all of this has been forgotten by the politicians in 9 months flat? I would like to introduce Supriya Shinate, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party, and Mr. PKD Nambiar, he supports the Bharatiya Janata Party. Supriya, Ms. Shinate, we have had this discussion in the past also, where you say that the responsibility is of the centre, they must expedite the the vaccination drive. But the point is of collective responsibility. It's not like the Congress is not holding rallies. It's not like in Bareilly there was not a crowd, or there was an absolute disrespect towards social distancing. We saw it in front of our own eyes.
No, Sanket, I agree with you, and it worries me to see crowds like these. And I think internally there is a very active discussion on within the Congress Party of what we want to do going ahead. But the reality also is that the figures, as far as infections are concerned, the extent of infection, the extent of testing are all with the government. And I really believe that right now the government will have to take a call on what to do. Should rallies be banned? Should crowds be, banned? Should it be better organized? I don't know what the outcome will be, but till such time electoral process is on, until such time rallies are allowed, you cannot expect the Congress to step out of the electoral process. I'm just simply saying that wearing my Congress spokesperson hat. But yes, I get very worried looking at the visuals that you're trying to show here, or the visuals that I see otherwise. And I'm being very honest with you, being a public person and being involved with UP elections, I myself interact with a lot of crowds, and every time I step away, I believe I'm a carrier of an infection, or I could have been infected. But the reality also is that you cannot expect us to get out of the ring when the government and everybody else is in there. So I think it has to be
okay. Let me ask.
I really think because the numbers and the data is with the government, they will have to take the first step.
Mr. PKD Nambiar, so the thing is, release transparently all the data. Number 2, expedite the vaccination process. And number 3, lead from the front. The BJP, which is there in power in the centre and in many states which are going to polls, can also take a position in front of the election commission, no? That let's reduce our election campaigning. The EC says, I'll tell you the problem. The election commission is saying, see, we can't do anything, model code of conduct is not in place. Which means that the state governments and their machinery will have to act. Now, which machinery will act against its own? All chief ministers themselves are campaigning.
Absolutely. I think, Sanket, the double standards of our political class is at its peak. There is no doubt, irrespective of whether it is a BJP or a Congress or Aam Aadmi Party, we are all seeing everybody is on the street and campaigning. You see a double standard of an Aam Aadmi Party. Kejriwal is, he himself is now isolated because of his tested COVID positive. We are seeing him in Jalandhar. On the one side, he is telling in Delhi there is a weekend curfew. On the other side, in Jalandhar or in across Punjab, he is without a mask. He is
we campaigning. Also saw Prime Minister's rally in Tripura and Manipur.
Coming to that only. And the same is applicable to whether it is to Mr. Yogi or whether it is to Mr. Channi or all the political class.
Prime Minister also.
I'm not saying, I said when we say a political class, all across. Either the government of India or all the state governments should say that there is nothing to worry, it should not be, and there should not be any curfew or anything, or else it should be applicable to all across. I think, so what Supriya ji, I must congratulate her for coming out and saying that, speaking out as a public person rather than just typically a spokesperson. The time has come for the political class to come out and open and say that, yeah, there is nothing to worry, we are absolutely open, then there is no problem. On the one side, you will come out and say that these things need to be stopped, masks should be wear, the vaccination should be more and more, and on the other side, you go out and millions of people are on the street and without any COVID protocol. So I think the political class is completely making a mockery of what they're on.
What is the role of the election commission according to you? The EC says we can't do anything.
during the election.
Many political parties who say, well, ultimately it's the EC that is going to decide. Otherwise, there will be a bit of a problem. Inequity in rallies.
Sanket, remember the last week when the Election Commission's press conference, the Election Commission very clearly, outrightly said that every political party was in the opinion of having an election. Remember that you tweeted that why the election can
having
wait,
an election
but the COVID will
and
not
holding these campaigning or these rallies are two different things. You can hold an election and yet avoid crowding.
No, that is, then there is no role of an election commission on that. It is for the political class. Every political party should be deciding that we will not hold such kind of a rally.
Okay, Supriya.
We have seen in the...
Supriya.
Sanket, there are rare occasions where I agree with my friend PKG here. I agree. I mean, let's not put the onus on Election Commission of India. I think political parties, including mine, have some soul searching to do. We've got to take the tough call of how do we go ahead. But please remember here, I want to state one thing which we
can I suggest something, Ms. Sinait? How about approaching the Election Commission and saying we don't want rallies?
Sanket, just let me finish my point. Exactly to your point there. There is one party, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is flushed with funds. Look at the kind of resources they have. 98% of electoral bonds go to only one party. You cannot expect the rest of the opposition to compete with them without the crowds if you let them lose. So I just think there needs to be a proper sit-down meeting. We've all got to decide what kind of resources can be used, what kind of technology can be put to use. But the reality is, I agree with you that we cannot be inviting the crowd that we are inviting. This is inviting trouble. But the government of the day can't turn around and look the other way, and the onus cannot just lie on the opposition.
Sure. Let us hope that we do not forget. It seems that we have forgotten our experience from 9 months ago in West Bengal and what was happening as a consequence of the second wave. Many of these instances in these poll-bound states. Certainly, we don't want all of that repeated. Supriya Sinait as well as PKT Nambiar, thank you very much for joining us.